Now let's have a little squiz at the Engel and the 2 zone. The 2 zone is this section that's sitting on top here. The standard Engel, the 60 litre Engel, is down here. We've had that for about 12, 13, 14 years, something like that. A long time. We bought it years ago in Karratha. Been going and going and going, just sits at the back of the 4-wheel drive and works when we want it to. If you undo the bottom clips, you can then push the top back. You can see we're getting a little bit of icing up now. But the bottom acts as a freezer and the top acts as a fridge, which means we've got 60 litres of freezer and 40 litres of fridge, which we generally find is enough. One of the things we do when we come away is we try to make cooking as simple as possible. So there are some pre-cooked meals that you can buy. These ones in particular we like. They're called Jewel of India. Decent little curries, they're not too hot, and just enough for dinner for 2 people. So cook up a bit of rice and have that, and a bit of veggies if you want. Very simple meal. And the other thing we do is we prepare our own meals, home cooked food, anything that'll freeze well. Mostly curry style stuff. We eat a lot of curries. Goes easily with rice, can go with noodles, can go with pasta, some of it. And for those special nights where you want to sit down by the campfire and have something just a bit more interesting, some pork chops, some steak, and we carry a bit of bacon for breakfast, that sort of stuff. We generally try to keep cooking as simple as possible to make it just reduce the amount of work you have to do. We see a lot of these guys cooking all sorts of stuff in their 4-wheel drives, and I guess good luck to them, but we're a bit too lazy to do that. We just want to make life easy. Now the reason I've got an ice block in here is that we also carry an esky, and that is great if you're going out in the boat. Chuck that in the esky, put your drinks and your lunch in there, and when you come back in, just chuck it in the freezer again. It's frozen again by morning. So you've got a constantly cold esky whenever you need it. Other stuff you can bring, homemade brownies, incredibly delicious, and they freeze well. In fact, they're best eaten straight out of the freezer. And on the other side, we're carrying the bait, which is redundant at this stage, unfortunately. By this stage of the trip, we should have had that full of fish. In fact, the only fish we've got is that. It's a very sad sight. We would normally have a lot more in the way of fish than that. This side is mostly just frozen bait. Not much chance of us filling that freezer now. We've packed up the boat. Bit of frozen bread down this side. And that's it for the freezer. It's very sad to see the freezer so empty of fish. Top of the Engel, that's the fridge section. If you have the Engel on too high, you have to be careful because it will freeze the bottom of that. So you've got just to, so depending on the ambient temperature, you've got to adjust how much the Engel is coming on and off. But this trip's worked pretty well. The fridge has remained the fridge and the freezer has been the freezer, so it's working pretty well at the moment. I just realised I saw something pretty terrifying in there. Now there's a complete lack of beer. Now that's a bit more like it. In order to restrict myself and make sure I don't overindulge with beer, I just chill 2 a day, so keeps me honest. Just having a quick look at the output of our solar panels in overcast weather. As you can see from that, there's a little bit of sun coming through the cloud, and down here we've got our all-spark 130 watt panel, and over there is the 200 watt. Now The position of the panels will make a little bit of difference. We can't reposition this one, whereas we can reposition the allspark, which does add a bit of power. Now if we have a look at the gauges here, you'll see there's not a lot of difference between those two panels at the moment. The one on the bottom is coming from the 130 watt panel, and the one on the top is coming from the 200 watt panel. So the positioning of these panels plus the quality of the panels will have a lot to do with how much power is available from them. Obviously at the moment that's not a great amount of power going into our battery system, but it's enough to just keep us going. Now with the sun like that shining through cloud, both coming up and both reading very similar input amounts. In fact, as the sun gets stronger, we notice that the allspark panel on the bottom, the 130 watt, is actually starting to outperform the 200 watt panel. So the way our solar is set up at the moment, we have both panels coming in to the camper trailer. We have an MPPT regulator putting power into the full river battery that we have in here, the 120 amp hour AGM, and we have a line that goes across to the car, and that feeds power into the full river 120 amp hour that we have in there. Now ordinarily we would want our battery bank together in one place, but because we sometimes need to have the car away from the trailer and we still need to run the fridge in there, we're not always going to have the camper trailer with us. Sometimes we'll be away with the car. Without the camper trailer, it has to have its own battery system. So the MPPT regulator is transportable, it's not fixed to the camper trailer, and we can move that between the two vehicles, and that way we can keep the system operating. We've had a fair bit of cloud on this trip and it's coped reasonably well. Done a couple of little drives with the car just to make sure the car battery stays topped right up, but in general the system's been working very well. Supplied, as some of you will know, by Off-Road Living, the allspark solar gear and the full river batteries are very good quality stuff, so we're pretty happy with the way it's been operating. Now, in order to get a fair indication of how each panel operates, they need to be in the same position. So now they're both flat. You will find that the portable panel here won't be producing as much power. The angle of your panel to the sun is pretty important. Okay, that's the 200 amp hour, that's the 130 amp hour, and as you would expect, it's reasonable to expect that a 200 watt will put out more than a 130, but the angle of that 130, because it's portable, means that it will produce at least as much power as the 200 if you get it at the right angle. So it's always worthwhile having at least one decent sized portable panel with you, because you can increase the number of amps you're getting in with that. We'll put it back now into the tilted position. So that is now at about roughly 45 degrees to the sun, and you can see now that the bottom one, the 130 amp, the 130 watt, is back up to almost what the 200 watt is putting in. On camping trips to the northwest, a lot of people suffer from sandfly bites. Now, there's a lot of silly remedies people put up on the web and tell you to mix all sorts of things together, but honestly, we've been up in the north many times, and there's only one thing that works, and this is it. Now what's in that cup is nothing more than hot water, and what we're doing, we're getting the spoon hot and then applying it directly to the bite and holding it there as long as you can. Now you don't want to have it so that it's really going to damage your skin, but you want to have it as hot as you can possibly stand it.
There's two there on my back.
Yes, there's two together.
Are they together? Ow! Ow! Ow!
Now if you've got bites on your back, obviously you're going to need somebody to help with that. Good if that person happens to be a bit of a sadist and enjoys inflicting pain on you.
No, water's cooling.
The water's cooling, so we're going to heat the water up again.
Maybe that's enough then.
The water should be just off boiling point, and you hold your teaspoon in the water for a count of about 5 seconds. Just shake off the excess water and apply it to the bites.
I can feel the heat going through it, but it's not as hot as it was before. But maybe it works.
And you'll find that that is the single most effective treatment for sandfly bites that's available. All the creams, all the mixtures, all the nonsense that people will tell you about don't work. Now if you happen to be lucky like me, you won't be affected by sandflies. I am completely immune to them.
Oh, there. Throw your head around.
Now I hope we don't get an R rating on YouTube for this bit.
Oh no.
Nah, the water's cooling. You're not going ow 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 ow. But even so, a heated teaspoon's still going to help.
Yeah.
So we need to put some more hot water in there. So when you're doing your morning coffee and you boil your kettle, keep some aside. And use that to treat any sandfly bites you've got. It might sting a bit, but it's worth the hours and hours of itching that you would otherwise suffer from these things.
That cooled down very fast.
Yeah. 2 or 3 applications on each bite is usually enough to do the trick. Helps if you like to torture your wife. Okay, that should do it.